Warning: nitric acid is toxic, corrosive and in many countries illegal. For some time now I wanted to get some silver metal, so I can do experiments with it. Silver, however, is quite expensive. So I had to find another way. Luckily for me, I had a lot of these old Czechoslovakian circuit breakers lying around, which should hopefully contain some silver. As you can see, the insides look rather complicated, but we are interested only in two parts. So we shake out the insides of the breaker. And dispose of the outer shell. These two buttons should be silver metal. Now we carefully separate the silver buttons, which leaves us with half a gram of silver. So we take apart another 35 breakers and start weighing our silver metal. I also made this silver chunk when I melted the silver from another 20 breakers. So we will add the silver chunk as well. I also managed to obtain some old silver jewelry, which is marked as 925, which means it's 92.5% silver. So we will process that as well, which leaves us with 71.33 grams of silver scrap. So I put it all into a beaker and pour over it some nitric acid. Mine, however, was too concentrated, and I had to dilute it with water first. When the water was added, nothing happened, but after swirling around with the beaker, the reaction immediately began. The nitric acid reacts with silver metal to form silver nitrate, which is colorless, water, and nitrogen dioxide, which is the orange gas. The nitric acid also reacts with copper impurities to form copper nitrate, which caused the solution to turn green and afterwards blue. The reaction was slowing down, so I decided to start heating the solution. Unfortunately, my old hot plate decided to give up, which is sad, because I was using it from the beginning of this channel. Also, the hot plate was from the year 1974, which, for a 21st century chemist, is something like this. So I got a new hot plate and I put on it the beaker with this solution. The solution is so concentrated that if I dip my glass rod in there and pull it out, the silver nitrate starts to crystallize on the rod. Which reminds me of my ammonium chloride video. The next day, a bunch of silver nitrate has crystallized out, which looks nice, but for the next step I need it to be all dissolved. So I put it on the hot plate and add a bit of water. After some time, all the silver nitrate has dissolved, which means I can now move on to the next step. So I assemble a vacuum filtration apparatus. Turn on the vacuum and start pouring through the solution. After the solution was filtered, I disassemble the apparatus. Which leaves me with a solution that has 2 layers, so I shake it around and this fixes the problem. Now I pour the solution into a beaker. And wash out any remaining solution. Now I drop in a piece of copper wire, which I rolled into this coil. Immediately, a gray mud starts to form on the surface of the wire, which is actually our silver metal. After a while the solution turned dark blue, and a bunch of silver metal accumulated on the surface of the wire. So I gently tapped the wire a few times to shake off some of the silver. Afterwards I decided to add more copper scraps so the reaction would proceed faster. There is a simple test to determine if the reaction is complete. If I take a copper wire, dip it into the solution, pull it out and the copper wire stays the same, the reaction is complete. The wire was covered in silver paste, which means there is still silver in the solution. This paste can then be washed off, so there isn't any silver lost during this test. After some time, I repeated the test. And this time, the copper wire did not change. So I carefully removed all the copper scrap. Some of it, however, was buried deep under the silver, so I decided to filter some of the liquid off first. After there wasn't much liquid left, I continued removing the copper. So I got the vacuum filtration apparatus again and continued the removal of remaining liquid. After the flask was full, I removed it from the apparatus. Since this is mostly copper nitrate, I will pour it into a beaker and let it evaporate. Afterwards, I put the flask back into the apparatus. Next, I continue pouring the liquid. After washing the silver with distilled water a few times, the filtered liquid turned clear, which told me there wasn't any copper nitrate left. So I removed the funnel, which, as you can see, was full of silver powder. This powder, however, is still quite wet, so I need to dry it first. So now, the last thing to do is to weigh the silver. So now we can calculate the yield, which comes out to be 89%, which is not that bad. Okay guys, this is all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and see you next time.